to the Social Spotlight. I'm your host V, and today we are talking artificial intelligence, the game changer in business, investing, and jobs. From hedge funds using algorithms to beat the market, to small businesses boosting profits with smart tools. AI is no longer optional, it's essential. We'll look at how AI is turning spreadsheets into smart decisions. Joining me today is Robert Kirunda, a leading legal scholar, arbitrator, and policy advisor with deep expertise in law, emerging technologies, and natural resources. He teaches at Macquarie University and is now actively exploring the legal and societal impacts of artificial intelligence. Let's dive into the future that's already here. Most welcome, Robert.
Thank you very much.
Maybe to let us know, how do you feel about this?
Artificial intelligence has been around for a while.
Right.
What has changed since November 30th, 2022 is the introduction of generative artificial intelligence, which is where ChatGPT comes in.
Right.
But when I give talks on AI, I usually start with a very simple exercise. And I say to people, go to a Google page, open the Google landing page, and just type the first three letters of your name. If you see any suggestions there, boom, you've used AI. To answer your question, how does it feel? It feels very interesting because you can see the world changing right before our very own eyes. We were used to leaps that take decades. Now leaps are happening in weeks, in months. So that gets us to think, wait a minute, how do you react to this? My generation, we were just talking earlier before we started about changes in generation. There are those of us who are between the very old generation and the very young generation. And it's interesting to see. I think the younger generation will have a massive advantage in terms of higher productivity. AI has advantages, higher productivity, simpler tasks, more functionality.
Right.
It will mean different for the young generation to grow up understanding being human from a different perspective. So I think it's an interesting time to be alive.
Right. We have had trends where, people have concerns. We have had maybe like the godfather of AI who has recently come out to speak about some of the future challenges that is ahead for us, Should we be worried? Is AI here to replace our jobs or even us as human beings?
So I think we should be concerned, not worried.
Okay.
Will AI take away jobs? Yes, AI will take away some jobs. But that's not a complete answer. That's the thing everyone says. What people need to pay attention to is, what jobs will AI take away? First of all, let's be clear. If it's repetitive and can be automated, it will be disrupted. We're sitting at a beautiful facility. One of the repetitive things that happens here every day is somebody cleans this place.
Sure.
A few years from now, that person will be replaced by a robot, for sure. Whether we believe it or not. There are hotels in China where you don't see a human being. A hotel, you call room service and a robot brings you your meal. You don't interact with a human being. So if it's repetitive, it can be automated, it will be disrupted. Hands down, I guarantee you. Now, that takes us to, what jobs are we talking about? You will realize that in every market segment, there are low-level jobs. And this is what the founder of Claude, Anthropic AI, which owns Claude, one of the my favorite large language model that I use, has said, look, low-level jobs will go. That one we must prepare. But it's not the first time. And that's why we must tell the story differently. It's not the first time. There was a time when being a secretary in an office was a serious, respected job. I know people who retired as secretaries. If you look at the older letters written in the government of Uganda, they were written very neatly because there were secretaries who trained to write letters correctly. Now, let's stay away from finishing that sentence, but you don't find secretaries anymore. You find executive assistants, you find personal assistants, you don't find secretaries or note takers anymore. That job went. The world didn't stop.
Yeah.
There was a time in New York when they used to have an annual convention on how to manage horse manure, horse waste. Why? Because transport was by horses. And horses would go dumping dung anywhere, and you had to clean the streets. The guy who used to ride the horses to transport the higher people in high society lost his job. Nobody is saying bring back the horses. We are making cheaper, faster electric cars. You see, with the coming of electric cars, the mechanic in Chisenyi Mengo, the mechanic in Lunguja who does only Mercedes, is being disrupted by the electric car. Now cars have no engine. Cars are giant iPads. It is not the first time we have disruption in the employment space. And that's what we need to tell people.
Yeah.
So if you are young and you're able to go back and learn a new skill, the first thing you must do today is choose your profession wisely. The second thing you must do is learn how to use AI in your profession. When we went to school last century, when you were filling out your forms for A-level, picking your choices for university, you were told about professional courses.
Yes.
And those in the arts field were law, education, and then you had social work, social administration, social sciences. And that's where you sort of found a profession. On the science side, you had medicine, engineering, pharmacy, and in engineering you had electrical, mechanical, and so on. Those were professions. To get into any of those courses, you needed very high points, especially if you wanted government sponsorship. What's changed? At the turn of the century, a young man called Arinaitu Rugendo listened to an artist. First of all, three things happened. There was a gentleman called Jose Chameleon. He hit the scene and he began to do music. And everyone thought, that's a new sound. Kadongo Kamu changed. Because you see, before that there had been a Kafero, Sevata generation.
Yes.
That was Ugandan music.
Yes.
Then came Chameleon, Bebe Cool.
And Bobby Wine.
Then came Bobby Wine. Then a young man called Arinaitu Rugendo, who founded the Red Paper, listens to two guys in a band, goes like, there's a sound here. Those two guys were Mose and Weasel. He begins to write about them. He writes about Bobby Wine, he writes about Bebe Cool. Bebe Cool and Bobby Wine always have this fight. Every time Chameleon is performing, Bebe Cool and Bobby Wine have a fight. Music was the in thing. Everybody wanted to be a musician.
We have seen firms like Renaissance Technologies and Two Sigma. What are some of the common ways hedge funds and investors are using AI today?
So that's a brilliant question, and this takes us to the point I was saying earlier, that AI will not take your job. The person who knows how to use AI will take your job. Interestingly, the world of robotic trading, AI trading, is not new today. There was a flash crash on the markets in 2011 in New York. You see, by 2011, 75% of the stock trade, of the trades of stocks on the New York Stock Exchange were being done by algorithms. 25% of the world's forex trades were being done by algorithms. Now, let's put context to those numbers. The New York Stock Exchange at the time was, I believe, about $500 billion. The forex market in 2011 was $4 trillion. 25% of 4 trillion is a very big number.
It is.
Dollars. In 2013, an author called Scott Patterson wrote a book on dark pools. And that book explains to you what was happening then. The use of, so it began as high frequency trading. Some would call it algo trading. And the stuff they do with those tools is simply next level genius. Today, if you're sitting in Uganda trading Forex, the pattern for Forex trading is quite simple actually, because you have to do two levels of analysis. You do technical analysis, you do fundamental analysis. Fundamental analysis is saying what is driving the movement of the currency pair you're trading or the stock you're trading. Let's use currencies, which I'm familiar with. I traded Forex, by the way,
Oh,
at some
really?
point. Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
In 2011. And this is what you would do. You know the US dollar will move in the same direction as gold.
Right.
So if you're trading gold, and gold is in a bull pattern or a bullish pattern or is in a buy pattern, you know that in Forex you have a cross pair. You have the USD and the Japanese yen. So dominant, secondary currency. If you're buying the USD Japanese yen, you will automatically be selling the Euro USD. Because the Euro here is the dominant currency, the dollar is second. So you watch these currencies and use them to hedge, right? So I know that if the US Federal Reserve increases interest rates, people are automatically going to sell the dollar. So I know how USD JPY is going to perform. I know how the Euro USD is going to perform as a human being. Those two currencies tell me how gold is going to perform. Those two cross pairs tell me how gold is going to perform. So I can hedge using metals, I can trade using currency. So different players in the market react differently. Some will say, wait it out, let the wave. There are those who ride the wave, there are those who avoid the wave. Somewhere in that entire mix I've described to you, there's someone who is saying, if news happens, I must trade in a way that news doesn't affect me. So what do? They build a sophisticated computer program, i.e. AI, to deal with that issue. There are those who say, no. Why must gold always go the same way as the dollar? They build a tool to solve that problem. There are those who say, look, whichever way the market goes, I must make money. There are those who build tools to solve that problem. Then there are those who are saying, the rules around stock trading in the US are too complicated. There's a gap. Let's close that gap, and they build a tool. The point I'm making is there are as many AI tools for trading as there are people trying to beat the market. And how does that affect you and me? It affects you and me because it affects the price of the dollar. The price of the dollar affects the cost of exports. The cost of exports affects the value of the Uganda shilling. The value of the Uganda shilling dictates how Bank of Uganda deals with inflation. Inflation is a tax on money in your pocket. The money you're not spending, it gets taxed. That tax is called inflation. It loses value. That's why you wake up in the morning and you could have bought that tablet for $200, and then you wake up and you realize, oh, the EGX equivalent is now $250. You've had the expression, the butterfly effect.
Yes.
It's the same thing. A kid sitting in New York designing an algorithm to beat the US stock market affects you and me, whether you pay attention to it or not. And there's only so much that the government of Uganda will be able to do to control inflation. Now we have elections coming. That affects that would be a fundamental issue affecting the currency locally. Ugandans who are starting to understand the AI wave. You know, the one thing, I've been blessed to travel a bit, a few countries in the world. I've discovered this thing. Everywhere you find Ugandans outside this country, a good number of them are doing incredible stuff. There are Ugandans working for Lockheed Martin, Rolls-Royce, NASA. There are people out there doing amazing stuff. So what we should be thinking about is, how do we teach Ugandans to learn some of this complex stuff and to do it? How do we help Ugandans who are going into forex trading to understand, to not make the mistakes we made in 2011 of not knowing what a market maker was, what a dealing desk is. These are basics in forex trading. We didn't know. We didn't know what a market maker was. We didn't know what price fixing was. We didn't know why the dealing desks we were using were reporting. And we lost tons of money. We lost millions of dollars of money altogether. I know one company that lost in excess of $5 million. One company, people's money. 5 million in 2011 was a lot of money.
It was.
Still is today.
Even now, actually.
But if you think about this 14 years ago, man, but you can't blame us. We were hustling. Now, what we need to do is help the next generation to not make the mistakes we made by telling them AI has basically taken over, driving the markets. The rules can't keep up. I'm a lawyer by trade, and I can tell you that rules will never be able to keep up with technology.
That's
The tech changes too fast. To go back to your question, V, how are hedge funds and other investment houses using AI? Two simple things they're doing. One is they're asking themselves a very simple question. How do I beat the market, regardless of what's happening everywhere else in the world? Whether there's a war in the Middle East or not, whether President Trump makes an erratic decision or not, how do I beat the market?
Right.
The second thing they're doing is to say, how do I beat the rules? Because those are two different things. The market is the activity. The rules is the rails that govern the activity. So they're saying, is there a loophole I can exploit? And then they're building tools for that. And the tools are, as I've said, just too many, too complicated. We can't possibly cover them all now.
Speaking a little more into the tools, what are some of the, top of mind basic tools that small businesses can adopt?
Think about very, very simple things like organizing your calendar, like basically optimizing your time.
Right.
So think about, are you organizing finances? Are you organizing documents? How can you optimize time? Look at all your tasks and say, how many tasks do I need more than one person to do? How do I remove the second person? You want to understand your market better.
Right.
And you want insights that nobody will give you quickly. I can tell you in the time I've been using these tools that I will do my work first, because in my trade, this stuff can hallucinate, which is basically making up things, and that can have grave consequences for me. So what I do is I do it my way first, right? And then I go and say, is there an angle I missed? It always gives me that one angle I missed, which improves the quality of my work. So it's optimizing time, it's improving quality of what you're doing, it's thinking about angles you haven't thought about. You know how I come and say to you, you understand podcasts better than me. What do I need to do to do a really good podcast? What are the things I should think about? And you give me answers. You can do that with AI.
True.
And it will give you insights really quickly at any time of the day or night. Sometimes you can't, people are busy. I mean, you have stuff to do. So if I start calling you to ask about podcasts when you're shooting this podcast, you won't pick up. But I can go to my phone and ask Grok, what do I need to know about podcasts in Uganda? So think about, in whatever field you are, how do I optimize my time? How do I improve my quality? How do I improve my efficiency? And there's a tool for each of those.
If you had a chance to choose, is AI a competitive edge, a survival tool, or a threat? We ruled out the threat earlier.
Competitive edge, survival tool, or threat?
Yes.
I think it's a competitive edge in the sense that the better you know how to use it, the more profit, like everything else. Smooth sailors, skilled sailors get there faster. Good drivers make the journey enjoyable. And with all these things, practice makes perfect.
True.
So in that sense, the better you get at using AI, the better the competitive edge you have, because you'll do much more, much better, much faster. In that sense, it gives you a competitive edge. It's a threat because taken to its extreme, I mentioned to you before we were shooting that the biggest threat that AI poses is the containment problem. And the one author who has explained that best is Mustafa Suleiman. And he has said, and he was building AI tools himself. He now works with Microsoft. And he's the guy who built the company that Google eventually bought. The one that, sort of got the computer to beat. And so when guys who have built these tools tell you there's a threat on containment, and containment in one sentence is this question: will we be able to stop these tools when they exceed the capabilities we should allow them to have? When an AI goes rogue, will we be able to stop them? If you go deeper in the field, you'll hear about the singularity, which is when AI and AI are able to talk, have their own language, and outpace us.
Yeah.
When AI basically exceeds human intelligence, then we will need to have the ability to stop it. Will we be able to? That's the biggest threat. It's on the horizon. I think it's nearer than we think, than we realize. And that for me is, in its most extreme sense, why AI is a threat. I am not worried about AI doing what I do or replacing me. because I think I have certain attributes it will never have, such as the ability to have this conversation with a human being.
Perfect. That's quite interesting. Thank you for joining us today.
You're very welcome.
Is there one snippet that you would want our viewers to, I don't know, never forget about, artificial intelligence, something to keep them always prepared?
I keep using this example, but those of us who were in the era of SMS and you had to try and communicate in 140 characters, building an intimate relationship was very challenging.
I would imagine.
WhatsApp changed that, and we all use WhatsApp. WhatsApp made it simple for us to send tons of photographs, exchange documents. It's made communication simpler. Email saved us from having to write letters and wait 3 months for replies, especially if those letters were on a writing pad and ended with dedications at the bottom. My generation will know what I mean. If you don't get it, forget about it.
Forget about it.
But the same way that email simplified posts, the same way that WhatsApp simplified communication, multimedia services and whatnot, AI is that one tool that will make our lives simpler and easier. But we have to learn how to use these tools the right way. AI does not replace you, it helps you to do your job better. It won't do the job for you. It just helps you to do the job better. Keep that in mind and we'll all be fine.
Thank you so much,
You're
Robert.
very welcome.
AI will not replace you. It will help you do your job better. If you have loved this content, you know what to do. Subscribe. Thank you. And we hope you get to watch more of our content here on YouTube.